So the current Dodge lineup right now consists of 3 vehicles: the 4-door Charger, the 2-door Charger, and the Durango. So that makes 2 out of 3 vehicles from Dodge a Charger. They are, the Hornet's gone and all that type of stuff. We already know that, right? But there's talks that Dodge could be bringing back the Challenger. There's one problem. There's already a 2-door car in Dodge's lineup. So would Dodge actually sell a 2-door Challenger and the 2-door Charger side by side in the same lineup at the same time? Well, it depends on some things, but let's get into the video and talk about it. You see the title and you see the thumbnail. As a former Challenger owner, as a lot of you guys know, if you've been rocking with the channel for some time, you know that I had a Dodge Challenger RT, pretty much like that one that's right behind me on my computer screen here. And 2023, we know Dodge let go of the Challenger to focus solely on the Charger electric and now the gas powered inline 6 one. So you have a 4-door, 2-door Charger, all that type of stuff. We already know all of that, right? There's been talks about Dodge bringing back the Challenger and putting that back into the lineup at some point. We haven't seen a lot of it just yet. There were talks that they were already testing one. Nothing has really, came to surface for them bringing back the Challenger. But there's a big question right now. When the Challenger was in the lineup, you had your 4-door Charger, the 2-door Challenger, of course your Durango as your Dodge lineup. Right now, if you insert the Challenger back into the lineup, does that work, or is Dodge's lineup too saturated with too many 2-door cars? Will it actually work out? And could it be a possibility that Dodge would cut something from the lineup to make sure everything will fit? So let's start with this really quick. So why doesn't Dodge have a Challenger in the lineup right now? Well, there's a kind of couple of reasons why. One of the most obvious reasons is the fact that they have the 2-door Charger. They first came out with a 2-door Charger. That 2-door Charger pretty much fills that slot for the 2-door Challenger. There's another reason why they don't have a Challenger in the lineup at the moment. It goes back to the platform. If you remember, is that the Dodge platform for the Charger and all that is actually a chassis that was supposed to be shared between multiple vehicles, right? Not only for the Dodge Charger, but for also some of the smaller SUVs and things like that. Like, they initially make this chassis to be, the main thing for the electric vehicles and whatnot. It can power, it can be switched over to a gas chassis as well, which we're already seeing, but it's mainly to accommodate electric vehicles for multiple different platforms based on this same chassis. And one thing about this chassis, as a lot of you guys may know, that this chassis is huge because it is able to house this 2-door Charger, 4-door Charger, as well as a small SUV. And this current chassis is pretty big. It's much bigger than the current, well, I can't say current, but the previous generation Charger that we all love, like the one behind me on my computer. It's bigger than that, longer and wider than that chassis as well. So it will be kind of hard to put a Challenger on that chassis without making it super crazy big. So because that chassis is so large, Dodge would definitely need to develop a new chassis just for the Challenger, right? Something smaller, something that is more comparable to the previous generation Challenger that was discontinued. Now that chassis was similar to the Charger chassis. It was just slightly shorter and things like that. So it was really, really close to it, but just different dimensions or whatnot. So that would better suit having a Challenger because you don't want to have this huge 2-door car. I know the Charger right now, they do have that on that current platform now, and it's a 2-door Charger with a really big size to it or whatnot. So you definitely want to have something smaller for that Challenger to sit on. Now, before I go further in the video, one thing about the previous generation Charger and Challenger, they were huge targets for theft, right? If you own any sort of Mopar, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You constantly got to watch your back and things of that nature. If you do own a Mopar, make sure you get yourself a car lock. This right here is the world's best GPS tracker and alert system. Now with this car lock here, this is a hardwired version. You don't just plug it into the dash. This one actually have to plug in the power. This will give you alerts for if your car moves, get started, vibrations, or if somebody tries to kill the power of your car, things like that. You get alert for all of that type of stuff. So make sure you get car lock, protect yourself. Check out the discount codes down below. Just hit the link in my description. Get the latest discount codes for that, as well as 14-day free trial for your car lock service. Make sure you protect yourself. They are still stealing these cars. I've been doing multiple videos on them. Cars are still getting stolen left and right. So make sure you get a car lock to protect yourself. Let's go ahead and hop back into what I was talking about. So I think $1 million question here is this: if Dodge does bring back the new Challenger as a two-door, as it's always been, what would would happen to the lineup? Now, this is where things could get kind of interesting. I do honestly feel that Dodge would cut something from the lineup. They would cut the two-door Charger. Now, this is kind of the reasoning why they would do that. Not just because it's a two-door. I think it will ultimately have to do with the sales, how the performance happens, right? There might be a time frame where they're going to overlap, where you have the two-door Challenger and you have your two-door Charger. Now, the good thing about having two different two-door cars on two different platforms, you have a large two-door and a small two-door, but I do think Dodge will sit back, see what kind of sales they get with the cars, and whatever is not performing well, they're going to drop. Now, personally, this is what I feel will happen. If you have a two-door car, it's not going to be as practical as a four-door car, regardless of the size. Now, granted, having a big two-door car does help, but it just doesn't make sense to have a really big two-door car, especially a two-door car the size of your four-door car, right? I do feel that if they do introduce the Challenger back into the lineup, the Challenger will outsell the two-door Charger. They end up getting rid of that two-door Charger and mainly focus on that two-door Challenger and kind of go back to the lineup how they had before, right? With having your Challenger satisfying the two-door coupe crowd, having your Charger satisfy the four-door crowd, and that kind of covers both worlds. Now, I understand that a lot of people like the two-door Charger because the Charger originally has always been a two-door. But on the flip side of things, with kind of how things are today, two-door cars generally does not sell as well as a four-door car. Case in point would be, even when the Charger and Challenger work side by side in the same lineup, the Charger pretty much always outsold the Challenger every single year because of the fact that that Charger was more versatile, more practical than your Challenger. Now, I own both a Charger and a Challenger. The Challenger for a two-door car was pretty spacious, but at some point it doesn't become practical. The doors are super huge. When you park in certain places, you can't really open your doors. I don't like parking beside people, but sometimes you can't avoid it. If you have a family, a Challenger does not work. Trust me, I know firsthand. So there's a lot of things where the two-door car doesn't work. Even if it's a big car, it just doesn't work. It's really hard to, if you have kids or multiple kids, to get kids in and out of a car that is two-door constantly. Yes, it can be done maybe every now and again. If you have to do it all the time, it doesn't really work out well. So in the end, my thoughts are one of the cars will get dropped. Dodge have shown that if there's no interest for people to buy a certain car, they will cut it quick, fast, in a hurry. Look at the Hornet. The Hornet was around for a couple years and now it's gone. People wasn't buying the car. It's gone for 2026, and they would do that going forward if something isn't working right now. Now, another thing I do want to talk about here is the fact that what the car will look like. Now, the styling of the car, this is what I feel like the design will be if they do go and make this car. It would have to be modeled after a 1972 Challenger. Now, if you look back at the Challenger that was on the previous platform from, I think, 2010 all the way to 2014, or it's actually 2009, I think, when the Challenger came out. Maybe 2008, I can't remember. They modeled that one after the 1970 Challenger with the whole light bar at the back, kind of the front grille, all that stuff, directly after 1970. Then when they went to the 2015 to 2023, 1971, with the split grille in the front, the kind of the split tail lights in the back, and all that jazz, right? So it makes sense for them to go 1972 now, with the kind of the quad lights in the back, kind of that special shaped grille in the front. If they don't do that, to me, that's a loss, that's a miss. They gotta go 1972 for the new Challenger. But the looks and the design, the interior, all that stuff really doesn't mean anything unless they can cut the price on the car. Now, this is where it could help this car sell well. Now, with it being a smaller car, that could allow Dodge to make this car cheaper than the current two-door Charger. Now, the current two-door Charger is pretty expensive. I think it's around about like $60,000 as of right now for the current models that they got. You can definitely get a smaller car and make it less, maybe put it in the 40s, low 50s, something like that, something that could be easily sold. Of course, it depends on your power plant. They definitely need some lower trims to kind of help out with volume sales, but the Challenger needs to be, if it's cheaper than the Charger, that's gonna help out with sales and could push that two-door Charger out the door if they do have them in the lineup at the same time. So that's gonna wrap up today's video, man. I've been seeing a lot of Challengers around, kind of miss having a Challenger myself. And so I'm looking forward to how they do that as far as bringing it back. I mean, making the Challenger smaller platform with this new interior in it, new technology in it, some new power plants they're gonna have with the car. would be a great time to bring that back. I know some people are going to feel some type of way if they got rid of the two-door Charger. People are going to gripe about it, but I think the sales in the end are going to show that when you have the two-door Charger versus the four-door Charger, that four-door Charger will sell a whole lot better than the two-door Charger. It's just going to happen. Historically, that's always have happened. The Charger has always outsold the Challenger, even though the Challenger is the most retro-looking car out there. The most retro-looking model car on the road is two-door. It matches the shape. Everything about the car screams retro 1970 Challenger. It just still never outsold the Charger. The four-door Charger has always been practical. The four-door Charger always been better for families, better for rentals and things of that nature. You can't discount the rental sales and things like that. I know Dallas got, you know, that helps out too. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the four-door car that you can't do with a two-door car. So seeing how that plays out. So if you made it this far in the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We talk a lot of car related things on this channel. So make sure you lock it in to be around for all of that. I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out. Cut it.